Welcome to the Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast on Tobacco Road Sports Radio and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com as part of your Wrestling Wednesday card. I'm your host, Michael Davis. We're picking the brains of each other on several hot topic WWE and AEW talking points. Reigns officially passes Hogan, the greatest women's wrestler of all time. Will AEW Collision work on Saturdays? And LA Knight being left off SmackDown? This and so much more. We have a full stacked show for you today for the Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast. Welcome back to the show today. He was on the show last week. Shannon Smith right now on Drop the Mic. Shannon, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Apologies for last episode. I got it all figured out now. No glitches tonight. As you can see, no glitches tonight.
No glitches tonight. That's what's under his name. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, what's under my name is at Drop the Mic Wrestling, where you can follow us on Instagram. And there's a bigger version for you guys to see that as well. We post content throughout the week. We'll post probably some reels, probably something along the lines of Shan thinking that fans don't want the Attitude Era back. But that's a hot take according to some. And I'm pretty sure we'll get a few more hot takes if you're watching today on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio YouTube channel. You can go ahead and subscribe to that. We have Drop the Mic today. We have the Cat Cave as well dropping today. The episode I do with Ryan Frick, who also hosts a wrestling podcast, Tap Outs and Touchdowns. Go see that as well. And then, of course, Out of Pocket live on Fridays at 4. Shannon's been a guest on there several times. But, Shannon, I could talk for hours about wrestling, and we only get 1 hour today, so we got to make the most of it.
Yes, we do.
Perhaps the biggest storyline in wrestling, not only of right now, but probably of our lifetimes, if I could say so myself, as we acknowledge our tribal chief, even after tribal court, even after.
Yeah.
He has officially passed Hulk Hogan as the longest reigning world champion in WrestleMania era. There's only 2 people ahead of him right now, but this is, in the WrestleMania area. So what? That's like 40 years, give or take.
Yep.
And the question begs itself: is it time to end Roman's reign as champion? Looking back at the tribal court on SmackDown, they took a lot of time for the bloodline story, but it looks like they're setting up for something big. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. Not yet. Don't end it yet. I'm anxious to see what is still going on with the bloodline, because this is about as big as when the NWO debuted in '96. This is up there, man. I mean, this is probably one of the best wrestling stories that we've seen in years. And you can't kill it yet. It's still going. It's still going well. I know there's people mad. Oh, it's dragging out. It's so... You don't understand the wrestling story. You don't understand how good a wrestling story is. This is what's keeping the wrestling world up top right now. It's not just the WWE, but the wrestling world, period.
That's quite the statement right there.
It is. But I mean, tell me another storyline that can rival the bloodline right now.
I don't think, we have enough brainstorming time to figure out. Like, they have done some really incredible work.
They have.
But you start, and I love the bloodline. Do not get me wrong when I say this. But then you start looking into, okay, what's the best way to end this story? What, like, when you start looking, okay, was it Drew McIntyre at Clash at the Castle last year? That would have been a big moment for him in his hometown. They decided against it. Okay.
Right.
Fast forward a few months later, you have Sami Zayn in his home country of Canada. Okay, there may have been an opportunity there to elevate another star. They decide, hey, let's have Reigns keep the title. Fast forward to the next month at WrestleMania. Is Cody Rhodes going to finish the story? He looks like the star built to do it. They opt to keep the title on Roman Reigns. And now we're getting to SummerSlam. Reigns has already passed 1,000 days. And here it is. It's looking like, I don't think anything's official yet, but it's looking like Jey Uso is going to challenge the tribal chief, the head of the table, and compete for the undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Championship at SummerSlam. I don't know if I want Jey Uso taking the title off Roman, but if it happened, it would make sense.
It would. It would make a lot of sense because, once again, it's keeping the title within that bloodline story, and the story is going to continue. So, if he has to drop the title, it would be a great idea to drop it to Jey Uso. He had Friday was intense, a 30-minute emotional roller coaster. It was. So it would make sense to keep the title within the bloodline to keep the story going. It would.
And if you haven't went and saw that tribal court, you got to. Honestly, just watch all of SmackDown because 90% of it was bloodline. And,
Yes.
a lot of people are complaining online, Shannon. I don't think they have a place to complain. Granted, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but Roman said this at the WrestleMania press conference, like he wants somebody to come take it from him. They're dominating wrestling. They're dominating the headlines right now. They have a chokehold on everything, and Roman's begging somebody to step up. And with it being the best story right now, they could have all 2 hours of SmackDown, and I wouldn't complain.
No, I wouldn't either. I mean, tribal court, that was all the elements that they had, man. The crowd chanting, "You got pinned." That was great. I mean, they did that. Then the crown. Then after that, Roman saying he doesn't want the crown, throwing the belt down, hands it over to Jey, bows down to him, hits him with the low blow. Then when Solo picks up the necklace, and the crowd wanted him to do it. The crowd said, "Put it on. Put it on." Then he didn't. They attacked the Usos. Then the brutality afterwards. I counted maybe about 15 some chair shots. I mean, reminiscent of the Attitude Era. I'm like, whoa, they're going to try to do this. And what they done was so uncharacteristic of some of the chair shots and the brutality that went on in the past few years. They're leaning towards adding aspects of the past era into this future era, and it's actually working.
You don't want it. You don't want it.
No,
I'm telling you, you don't want it back.
I'm still standing on it. They're adding elements. I didn't say they're bringing it back. They're adding elements. It's cool to add elements. It's cool to delve into the past. It's cool to bring things from the past, but full-blown turn, no. We don't. No, you don't want that. You do not. You want to keep it going with this young group, this young crew, this young core that you got. Add aspects of the past. That's okay. But no full-blown turn. You're doing well. Don't mess with the formula.
Man, hey, don't mess with that formula. And if it's not Jey Uso, though, if it's not Jey Uso, then we start running out of names. And there's only two that come to mind. You could work in a Solo Sikoa Roman Reigns match. It feels just a tad bit early for Solo, though.
I think so. I think it is early for him. And give him a little more time to ferment. Give him a little time to develop. It's coming. Now it's coming. If Friday told you anything, it's coming.
Dude, he's elevated his game ever since joining the bloodline at last year's Clash of the Castle. He hasn't been on the main roster for a full year.
Right.
And it's like, I'm so impressed with him because he's been inserted into the most important story in wrestling right now.
Absolutely.
And it's not like he's a rook having to be carried by his cousins. He can go out there and do his own thing.
Absolutely. And it's working well for him. Once again, this formula needs to, and they're building other wrestlers with it. They're building other wrestlers. This is why the story needs to keep going, because you're starting to build other talent with this. It's working. No, don't mess with it. Don't
mess with it.
Right.
And the only other name I could think of right now, they could obviously build someone through it. But if it's not Jey, if it's not Solo, Could you wait till next year's WrestleMania? And do you give Cody Rhodes that other opportunity to quote unquote finish the story right now?
Either that or this year's Royal Rumble or the coming Royal Rumble. Do it at one of the main pay-per-views. Do it at maybe the Royal Rumble, but I'd probably say tide it over to WrestleMania because I think that it would be better suited for him to lose the title. If he's going to lose it at the grand stage and then, give someone that WrestleMania moment. I think it would be best to do that because, the way that they're doing this, and I've been thinking about this, most of the day. As a world champion, you're not as bad as it sounds. You shouldn't have to defend the title every single night, every night. You shouldn't have to. Those main pay-per-views is when that title needs to be put on the line. Your main stages is when that title needs to be put on. Now, if you have like the Intercontinental Championship or the United States title, the Tag Team Championship, anything like that, then maybe the minor pay-per-views, maybe a Monday Night Raw or a Friday Night SmackDown title defense. Defend it 2-3 times, maybe around that time if you got the minor title, because that's what the minor title is for. You're building up to the main stage. You're building up to the big lights, the flashing lights, the big crowd, your Wembley, your MGM, your big places where you're going to be defending the title, the grand stages. You don't need to put the world title up every night. People got to chill with all that mess there. You got to chill with that. He doesn't wrestle enough. He doesn't do this enough. But when he wrestles and when he puts on the show, he puts on a daggum show. Does he not?
And he's doing less is more quality. Like Roman's not that guy who's like going to wrestle a match like Kenny Omega or Will Ospreay will do over in AEW with Forbidden Door.
Right.
Reigns is telling a story throughout the ring and gets everyone invested.
Exactly.
But so sidebar real quick before we move on. Would you brought that up, like the world champion doesn't have to wrestle every night or defend his title so often. Would you rather Roman's title reign of, hey, he's defending it like every now and then, but he's still like there enough to be a world champion? Because I don't think you or I agree that Brock Lesnar handled his world championship reign the best of ways. Or would you rather a Seth Rollins with the world heavyweight title competing and defending on Raw, NXT, house shows, anywhere and everywhere he can to help legitimize that title?
I would say that your world champion needs to be visible. Now, that is what I believe. Like, whether he's on commentary, whether he's in the ring cutting a promo, whether he's a part of a backstage assault or something like that, your world champion needs to make an appearance with that title to show that he's the figurehead of the organization. He's the head of the table, if you will. He needs to be seen. That's what the world champion is all about. He needs to be visible. Does he need to defend it every night? No. But he needs to be seen. He needs to be known because he's your face of the company. I like what Seth Rollins does, and Seth Rollins is a fighting champion, and that's great. But Seth Rollins also, I think that Seth Rollins is very entertaining. He's great on the microphone. He's a great storyteller. He does well. But see, Seth Rollins is one of those guys who wants to wrestle. You can just look at Seth Rollins and just realize he wants to compete. Not saying that Roman Reigns doesn't. And that's no disrespect to him. But see, he's doing it a little differently. See, what Roman Reigns is doing is different than what Seth Rollins is doing. Seth Rollins wants to compete. He wants to wrestle. He wants to do. He wants to be out there. He wants to get it done. But Roman Reigns has got a story to tell. If Seth Rollins were in that same predicament, Seth Rollins wouldn't be defending that title. I don't think he would. Would he like it? I don't think so. But if it's working, leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
Right.
Reigns doesn't need to defend the title or wrestle on every SmackDown. It's a treat when he does, if he does, but especially like avoiding injury too. Like, could you imagine if Reigns just wrestled one random SmackDown against like Rey Mysterio where it didn't make sense, and now, your guy of over 1,000 days has torn his bicep doing an occasional like clothesline or something.
And here come the marks. And here they come. And then next thing you know, here they come. Every wrestling community will say, "Well, he shouldn't have wrestled that night." Hindsight's 2020. You got to do what's best for the company. As much as everybody hates to admit it, MD, you and I being sports fans, it's a business. Mm-hmm. We must accept the fact that it's a business. I hate it. I despise it. I don't like it. But it is what it is. You don't want to lose your cash cow. If he gets hurt, what's the rest of the storyline going to do?
It's true.
You better protect it. You better sit on what you got. You better appreciate it, because when this gets better and better and better and keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, you'll be happy. You'll thank him later. We'll be thanking Roman Reigns 5-10 years down the road.
This might be a once in a lifetime thing that we have going on. You mentioned my initials, MD. Mm-hmm. Well, your initials are SS. So, Shannon, are you jumping on the SS Neidhart as I bring up this next point? Okay.
Go ahead.
We're switching topics real quick. I know that was a hard left turn.
Hey, it's
but
fine.
When we're talking about Roman Reigns perhaps being the greatest world champion in WrestleMania history, or just in general, we have to start talking about what claim does somebody have to be the greatest women's wrestler of all time. Now, there's people who usually get mentioned: Trish Stratus, Lita, Mae Young will get thrown in there. China was thrown in there. All of these guys. Mm-hmm. Well, now you could probably have a statistical claim to throw one Natalya Neidhart into there, because if you guys didn't notice, a couple weeks ago, Natalya was given 6 Guinness World Record achievements for, let me see if I can get all this right, most female SmackDown matches at 200, most female Raw matches at 174, most WrestleMania appearances for a female, 8, most premium live appearances for a female, 75, and this is what astounded me, most matches for a female at over 1,500, and even more than that, the most wins in a women's wrestling career at 663. Shannon, if you had asked me and you listed all those Guinness World Records, I couldn't have named Natalya as my guess at any point.
Me neither.
I would have said Charlotte Flair or Becky Lynch before that.
Right.
Why? First of all, do these statistics mean anything to help Natalya solidify a claim to be in the conversation?
Is there anybody else in that book besides her?
No.
I rest my case.
Oh, so you think it's a done deal?
Men lie, women lie, numbers don't.
You think it's a done deal that she's the best?
Who else is in there?
Really?
Who else is in there? I'm serious. I'm a numbers guy. Now, it's a matter of taste. We were talking about, the past few weeks, who's the best Intercontinental Champion of all time? Gunther, the Honky Tonk Man, Macho Man Randy Savage. We talked about that. We're probably going to get into the U.S. title later on. Hopefully, I look forward to that. But then we're talking about Roman Reigns here. Ever since I've been on this show, you and I have been talking numbers, number of days, number of title reigns, number of wins. We've been talking numbers this whole time. Yeah, I don't know if it's just you and me. I don't know if you do this with anyone else. Hopefully you don't, but that's cool if you do. But we've been talking numbers this whole time. And I'm sorry. I'm a person that looks at numbers and I'm kind of like, that's hard, man. That's hard to do. And no disrespect to Trish Stratus, no disrespect to any of the ladies that have been in those rings, been inside there. It's a rough business. It's rough on the body. But come on, man. Who else is wrestling that many matches as a woman? Come on, man. And getting those wins too. Look, I get it. Titles are what's up. I understand. I get it. But look, man, the Mountie held the WWE title. The Mountie.
What?
Case in point. The Mountie. Case in point. You put a title on a dog any day of the
Mr.
week.
Rougeau?
Yes.
He did not win the WWE title.
Look it up. The Mountie
I did, because I'm like, this is way out of pocket. He held the Intercontinental title.
But he held the world title. The Mountie won it. He won the title and lost it to...
No, he did not.
He won the title.
He did not.
Yeah, he did.
What world title are you talking about?
He held the world title. He held the World Wrestling Federation title. He held the World Wrestling Federation title. Oh, no, he wrestled in the match. My bad. He wrestled for the World
He wrestled in the match.
My bad. Sorry about
okay.
that. But okay, we'll go into it. We'll go into it a little further. Lex Luger held the WWE title. Now, granted, Lex Luger was a better WCW wrestler at one point in time. He rubbed a lot of people the wrong way in the WWF. He did. But you put a title on one guy and he's automatically great. Come on, dude. Trent Dilfer won the Super Bowl.
Dude, I don't know if Lex won the WWE title. I know he won the WCW title.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and rightfully so.
That was, 1A, 1B at that point.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, for real, you look at some of these guys that have had titles put on them and you consider all day long and debate it. But sometimes you just got to look at the body of work and just say, man, that body of work speaks for itself, and her body of work speaks for itself.
Okay, I'm astonished at the 6 Guinness World Records.
Me too.
Especially all of those. That's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Especially staying in the business that long, everything. But you cannot tell me that when Natalya walks into the ring, you're like, oh man, let's go. This is the greatest women's wrestler of all time. We're watching greatness.
You ain't got it.
You know who you do that for?
Who?
You do that for Trish Stratus.
I get it.
You do that for Charlotte Flair.
I get it.
You do that for Becky Lynch. All 3 of those have higher claims to this greatest women's wrestler of all time. And Natalya even gets close to it.
And I get it. I understand it. The marketability is what does it for them because the marketability is big. I'm not saying that you're wrong on that one, but I'm telling you right now, in this demanding business called wrestling, when you put up that many numbers in a sport where you're not guaranteed to have your life at the end of the day, I'd understand if it was basketball. I get it. I understand if it was basketball. I understand. But in this game, yes, Hulk Hogan said it best. They didn't tell me that this was fake. They didn't tell me this with all the knee injuries and the hurt that he went through in his career. They didn't tell me this stuff was fake. I'm just saying, in this business right here, you got to look at that and just say, wow, what a body of work. I'm pretty sure if you talk to Trish Stratus, she probably think the same thing.
Dude, Trish Stratus has now come back after what, 15 years?
Oh yeah,
and still doing some of the best work.
She looks great.
She put women's wrestling on the map. So Trish crawled. Trish crawled.
Yeah.
And I could get a thank you Trish shirt. Okay. Trish crawled so Natalya could walk.
Right.
So that women like Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch could run. But what Charlotte and Becky have done for the women's industry now to make it as legit as the men's, Natalya didn't do that.
Oh, I understand. I get that. I understand. But also what you must understand as well, too. Natalya did kind of have some help, man. Pops and Uncle Brett. You know what I'm saying? I can see where you're coming from with that. She had a leg up in the business. She was able to learn the business from her daddy and her Uncle Brett. Which, of course, he's not her blood uncle, but, of course, she calls him Uncle Brett in a lot of her posts that she has on Instagram for him, giving them respect where respect is due. She has some help in the business. That part I can say is what you could argue with because, Trish didn't have a family inside of the wrestling business, and she probably learned a lot of that on her own and had to make her
Becky.
Right, exactly. Charlotte did though, so that's another thing. And she had probably one of the greatest wrestlers of all time as her father. Getting her through that, which that's neither here nor there. But you also got to look at it though. It is a numbers game to me. It's a numbers game. No disrespect to any of those girls out there. They did wonderful. Like, they're doing incredibly well because at one point in time, the women's division was holding up the WWE. Let's be honest. They were holding it up. When you've got Becky Lynch headlining the WrestleMania,
Has
headlining.
Natalya ever headlined to WrestleMania?
No, she hasn't. No, she
Nope.
hasn't. But as Becky Lynch wrestled 1,500 matches in the WWE.
She'll eventually get there.
Eventually. But has she now? What have you done for me lately?
Okay. Wow. What have you done for me lately? Okay. Were you the same guy who like rolled his eyes when it was like Rhea Ripley versus Natalya for the Raw Women's title? And you're like, okay, we don't need to talk about this.
But we all knew the outcome. We knew the outcome. I mean, she's at a point in her life, and we've been talking about this springboarding these athletes.
We would never talk about Michael Jordan competing for a championship, and we're like, we know he's going to lose. No, Jordan's the GOAT. LeBron, by the way, if we had that conversation about LeBron, he'll lose. It's the finals. If you guys did not watch Out of Pocket this past week,
woo, I was so mad I wasn't.
Jackson Cordray and the producer Desmond Johnson got into about
Jordan.
Totally organic, by the way. Like, I did not have that on the cards to talk about, and then Jackson's internet messed up for some weird reason. And then as soon as he gets back, I think somebody had mentioned LeBron and Jordan, and Jackson's like, okay, here we go. I'm going all in on this. But there's some screenshots on Facebook you guys could find. You could find Out Pocket this past week's episode on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel as well. And you mentioned the United States title. We've talked about Roman Reigns, who could dethrone him. We talked about greatest women's wrestler of all time, which is not named Natalya. No offense, no disrespect. No disrespect. No disrespect. But now we have an interesting thing where Austin Theory is the United States champion as of right now. And I'm looking on social media, and maybe that's not the best thing to do. But a lot of people are hating on Austin Theory of all people right now. And I don't know why. It's kind of disrespectful. I mean, he's not my favorite, but guy's at 226 days and counting right now. Actually, maybe 227 and counting right now as the United States champion. He beat John Cena at WrestleMania. And when it comes to the longest modern day United States champion, I consider that the WWE tenure. Dean Ambrose holds it for the most days at 351. Mm-hmm. So there is about 4 months away, give or take, from surpassing Dean Ambrose as the longest reigning United States champion in history. I don't think he gets Lex Luger's reign. That was in the 500s.
No, 500 days, man. 523.
Whew. But where do you see Austin Theory's reign? Do you think it's? Huh?
I don't think he's going to get to Dean Ambrose. I don't think they will.
How soon do you think he drops it?
Oh yeah. He's going to drop it, and we'll get to who he drops it to later.
Okay.
We'll get drops it to later. But the thing about it is, though, I don't think he makes it to Dean Ambrose. I don't think he does. And that's no disrespect to him, but honestly, I think Austin Theory kind of got lost because you got Roman Reigns breaking Hulk Hogan's record. You got Gunther about to break the Honky Tonk Man's record this fall, which I hope he does. We've been talking about this week after week, and we're hoping that he does. I really hope he does because it's been 36 years, and I think it's time to do it. I think Gunther's the right guy. He's the right champion. They struck while the iron was hot with Gunther. It's working well. The Imperial, they're carrying on. They're in a good rivalry right now where they have a guy that might be a decent challenger to him in Drew McIntyre. But I think Austin Theory got lost, and I really think it's unfair to him in a way because, you got all this going on. And for the love of God, he's on SmackDown. Where are you going to put him? You got the bloodline story going on for that much, and then the next one, he has a match with Sheamus, and he wins with a schoolboy. I mean, it's not fair to him. I mean, I hate that the dominoes have fell that way for him, But that's what he's got to deal with. And I think, honestly, it would make sense for him to get the title taken off of him and kind of get him into a rivalry to the point where his name starts popping back up again. Because he's a good heel. I mean, he's very appealing on the microphone. He's not a stale character. He just needs the right person to kind of charge his batteries. And I think that a certain person, might be great for that to happen.
Okay.
Let's just leave it at that.
Okay. We might have to get into that a little bit. But I don't know, like Austin Theory's beaten, the likes of John Cena at WrestleMania. I mean, and he's beaten several other legends. I think maybe Jeff Hardy before Jeff, went on to AEW and, other things. We won't get to Jeff Hardy a lot right now. I always go off on tangents about how reckless he is, both in and outside the ring. But another time.
And understandably so. And I get it.
Another time. But Austin Theory, he could have like a legitimate rivalry on SmackDown that elevates him. Put him with an AJ Styles.
And I believe that would be great for him, but there's someone else out there.
Put him with Rey Mysterio.
Yes, but there is someone else out there.
Who is the other person? Tell me.
We'll get to that later. It's going to come up. We'll get to that later. We will.
I'll let you talk to me.
Yeah, but a little briefness on the U.S. title here. Briefness. The U.S. title was brought into the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling in 1975, which was an affiliate of the the National Wrestling Alliance, and it was brought into the World Championship Wrestling in 1989, and into the WWE in 2001. Of course, the title was reunified in 2001 with the Intercontinental Championship, but then was brought back in 2003. 101 champions have held this title of all time. Ric Flair with the most title reigns in WCW history with 6, and John Cena with the most title reigns in WWE history with 5, although he was tied with a certain wrestler we won't talk about, CB. So, but here's a weird part right here. With the long tenure of this title in 1975, only 2 guys have held the title for a continuous reign of more than 1 year. Of course, Lex Luger is one, and the second one is Rick Rude. Only 2 guys to ever do it. Now, here comes the fun part. We talked about this before. Do you know who has the shortest U.S. title reign of all time? Do you remember?
Dude, dude, this has happened twice. Ryan asked me a question on the Cat Cave, and I blanked.
Oh man,
who was it?
Let's just say his Attitude Era. He's Attitude Era. Breaking Glass.
Steve Austin. Steve Austin.
Yeah. Okay. He was Steve Austin. He held the title for 5
minutes. WCW.
Yes, in 5 minutes. He lost the title. The title was given to him because Ricky Dragon Steamboat was injured and had to forfeit the title at Fall Brawl in 1994. So he was given the title, and he lost the title to Hacksaw Jim Duggan in 35 seconds. One of my favorite tidbits of all time. One of my favorite tidbits. So yes, the United States title for all you young guys out there that don't know. My Boomer fans will love that.
Yes. You got a United States history lesson right there from the one and only Mr. Smith.
Yeah.
Appreciate that history lesson right there. So you mentioned all this United States history. You mentioned, Austin Theory's reign and everything. You mentioned somebody potentially taking the title off of him. I'm getting some vibes from you. Yeah?
Nah. No, I'm just playing. No, I'm giving you more hints. Nah.
Nah. Are you going to take this take this map and see the directions inside to see exactly where you can.
Yeah.
So this brings up an interesting point because we're talking about who could take the United States title off of him. I think AJ Styles doesn't, but elevates Austin Theory. I think
Yes.
Rey Mysterio wouldn't, but elevates Austin Theory. But then you could also put in somebody who people are afraid might lose momentum after losing the Money in the Bank ladder match a couple weeks ago, and that is one L.A. Knight. Yeah. Um, you're thinking LA Knight could be a guy who takes the title off Austin
It
Theory?
makes sense. It makes sense, man. We talked about last week striking while the iron is hot. Now, I read a little something that was very interesting today, and it was this morning when I was getting ready for my gym session, then to get on to my training today. There was a wrestler in WWE that they did not strike while the iron was hot. His name was Rusev. He had a very wonderful NXT run, got to the main roster. It looked like they were going to build him up and build him up and build him up, and it didn't happen. There are some out there comparing LA Knight's white hot start to Rusev. A lot of people are looking at it. WWE's got to strike while the iron's hot, or they might have another Rusev. So it would make a lot of sense to put LA Knight in contention for this title, more or less putting the title on him and then having him and Austin Theory go at it. It would make a lot of sense. It would help out Austin Theory. It would also help out LA Knight as well too, because I do look at and understand why LA Knight didn't win the Money in the Bank. It would have been cool to see it, but it makes a lot of sense for him not to win, because just give him a little more, give him another decent rivalry, let him go out there and move that crowd some more with those wonderful mic skills that he has, and let me see a little more of him in the ring. I think that would probably be just what the doctor ordered for LA Knight. I think it would be great for him. I don't want that guy to go out like Rusev. I don't want him to go out like Mr. Kennedy. I don't want that.
That's the one that's like hammering home with me. Like, for some reason, Mr. Kennedy never broke through that glass ceiling, but had all the talking skills,
Right.
got the crowd invested, whether you loved him or hated him,
Mm-hmm.
and never broke through for injury
Absolutely.
purposes, for issues with John Cena and Randy Orton.
Right.
There were reasons. LA
Yes.
Knight, he rubbed people the wrong way in his first stint in developmental. Now he's back at age 40, and they're like, oh, he's 40, even though Damian Priest just won the Money in the Bank briefcase, and he's 3 months older than LA Knight. Yeah.
Right.
So that doesn't make sense to me. I hope they don't lose this momentum. And one of my buddies, Chris, he's been on the podcast before. We went to Raw in Greensboro, and he told me one day a few months ago, he's like an LA Knight guy. And I'm like, why? Like, no offense. I mean, I love Eli Drake. I love him, but it's like, man, this LA Knight guy, I mean, he's just a mid-card 40-year-old guy. Like,
Right.
he's not getting elevated. And then everybody got behind him. Like, my buddy Chris was the first one on that LA Knight train right there.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden, it's like everybody loves him.
Right. I mean, and we talked about this last week. LA Knight reminds me of Orange Cassidy. He has that gimmick. The gimmick works for him. It was only a matter of time before AEW put a title on Orange Cassidy. It was only a matter of time. And I think that hopefully if WWE does this right, it'll be only a matter of time before they put a title on LA Knight. It may not be the world title yet. It might not. It might be. It might not be. But you got to strike while the iron's hot with this guy, or you're gonna lose out on him. You're gonna lose that momentum. That U.S. title is going to just be dormant, and and Austin Theory is not going to have anybody to try to contend with him, because they're throwing guys at him, but no legit story, no real actual story being thrown at him, and I think that's robbing him as well too. It's making him look bad. It'll help them both. Both of those guys will help each other, I believe. You got a legit heel, and you've got a way over face. Come on, man.
Which is so funny, because it's like they wanted LA Knight to be a heel. He's also a really good heel. Like, he's a really good heel.
Yes.
But it's like the New Day when they debuted.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody booed them until they're like, "Ooh, this is actually a funny trio," and then they
Yeah.
had to turn them face. I think LA Knight's in a situation where they're having to turn him face.
They got no choice. I mean, for real, they have no choice.
Like that segment with Hit Row on Dark, not AEW Dark, but WWE's Dark segment right before
Right.
SmackDown. Also, I think that's the big gripe right now is not necessarily that the Bloodline took so much time. It's like, of all people right now, you push LA Knight off the show.
Right. Right.
I mean, that video is already up on YouTube and it has 1 million views. It has the most views on WWE's like SmackDown Friday night, replays other than the Bloodlines Tribal Court. That's it.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And you got to strike while the iron's hot with him. You can't let him go. I mean, we don't know how long LA Knight's how over he's going to be for a while. But come on, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to go ahead and put him into that mid card, throw him into that upper mid, throw him in there because the crowd is enjoying him, the crowd is loving him. You may not be fully invested in him now, but with the momentum that he's got, I mean, and yeah, Money in the Bank, yeah, that kind of sucked that he didn't get it. And I understand why the fan vote was so high for him going into Money in the Bank. I do understand it, but I also understand why they shouldn't have gave him the briefcase because he has a little more to show to the crowd. I mean, he's an over face and it's wonderful, but my man has to handle the biz in the ring. Not saying that he hasn't, but give him a little more ring time. And if he performs incredibly well in the ring, put that title on him.
Yeah.
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 Give him a shot, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, it's very interesting that you bring up, Rusev and WWE like failing to capitalize on his momentum. Now he's in AEW.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since this Saturday night collision started going on, he's shown up a little bit more. He's done a couple squash matches. But looking at Collision and its ratings, it had an okay, first week. And week 2 dropped. Week 3 really dropped.
Mm-hmm.
And people were blaming, the pay-per-view, like Money in the Bank or whatever. I'm like, you do know Money in the Bank was like from like 3 to 6, right? Like people could have watched Collision.
Absolutely.
So there's been the comments going around Twitter and some legends commenting that Saturday Night Wrestling may not work in 2023 with all the options we have, especially we're about to get into football season in about a month or two. Was it wise for Tony Khan to bring back wrestling on Saturday nights in 2023?
It's not looking good for him, to be honest with you. It sounds good because, a lot of Saturday Night Wrestling it's legendary. There's a lot of Saturday Night Wrestling that has went on, when I was smaller. You've had some Saturday Night Wrestling as well, too, in your time as well, too.
I want to say my favorite. I want to say my favorite Saturday Night Wrestling memory.
Go ahead.
It was August 29th, 1998. My first minutes on this earth is me, or actually my dad, watching Saturday Night Wrestling as I was graced into this world. You're welcome, Earth. You're welcome. You're
Amen.
welcome. You're welcome. I'm finally here. Yeah.
Hey man,
That was my favorite Saturday Night Wrestling moment, as well as that's now all of your favorite Saturday Night Wrestling moments. You're welcome.
Hey man, you know what? I'll take that. That's cool. Hey, I mean, I can't top that. You know what I'm saying? But I think he's got. See, I was afraid of this. I was very afraid going into this fall with college football coming on. I mean, maybe have it seasonally. Maybe do it within a season or something like that. But as far as going into the fall, good luck. I mean, I'm rooting for you while I'm watching Saturday night college football. primetime game, probably about 8 o'clock. You'll be tuning up the band around that time. So,
Now,
hey.
now I'm okay with them putting another show out there,
Yeah.
especially getting, CM Punk and FTR their show, getting some exposure to House of Black, Miro, those guys. If it wasn't Saturday, let me throw out this night for you.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. Part of me wants to say Thursday because only Impact Wrestling's available on Thursday. But then you have Thursday Night Football in the fall. You have Raw on Mondays. You have SmackDown on Fridays. Give me Collision on Tuesday nights where AEW collides with NXT head-to-head and brings back the Wednesday Night Wars onto Tuesdays and see if your Collision show can beat out WWE's developmental program NXT.
I'm okay with that as well. It makes sense. I mean, Tuesday or Thursday night would make a lot more sense, but I think Tuesday makes it better because you are going against NXT at that time, and you are getting that talent that may not make it Monday and may not make it Friday. So why not put it Tuesday?
Boom.
House of Black is so passionate about being on Saturday. Give them a Tuesday slot and let them handle their biz. I don't see why not. I mean, I was, when they said Saturday, I was worried because that was the first thing that popped in my mind was football. And so, and football is going to beat out mostly anything. It doesn't matter who's playing.
Exactly.
And
doing this right in the summer too, before you get your like big audience established.
Yeah.
I mean, if you'd started this in mid-January, February, actually you'd have to start like March because of the playoffs. Yeah, you're backed into a corner right there.
Not good.
But yeah, go head to head on Tuesdays with NXT. They ran away from Wednesdays when they couldn't be AEW, and now they would have no other option to run to on Tuesdays unless they move to Thursdays.
And they ain't beat Monday Night Raw, so don't even think about Monday. I mean,
don't even think.
It sounds good, but I mean, this ain't the Monday Night Wars of old at that. So, I mean, I think Tuesday would probably make the most sense to get it off Saturday. You know, it was a good experiment. I think maybe Tony Khan might have been throwing out the jab a little bit, seeing what will happen on Saturday. But, you know, you came up with a big pop, you know, CM Punk coming back. Of course, it's going to be a draw regardless. But still, it's just the fact of 3 weeks is telling you no.
Well, here's another thing. Like, for right now, they are one roster and 3 different shows with Dynamite, Rampage, Collision. Would it be better to separate these rosters so you're like, hey, I really want to watch Saturday because that's the only place I can see CM Punk, FTR, House of Black, Miro, you know, this one, that one, this one, that one, and see the rest of the guys on Wednesday?
I would say they'd have to do it like that. I mean, a brand split is going to come, but they're going to have to do it in their own way. You know, like, you know, of course, this whole brand split happened with the NWO. You know, let's just go ahead and just say it. The NWO did it. You know, from 1996 when the NWO and WCW diverged away from each other, the brand split was what began the brand split. So let's just go ahead and leave it at that. But they'll have to find a way in order to make this legit their idea. Because, you know, you don't want to go into, you know, WWE's got the brand split. And for the love of God, it's really not a brand split. You know, that brand
They're
split.
so bad at it. Can I just like rant for a minute? Like, they are so bad at this. I remember back in Ruthless Aggression, sometimes there would be, you know, oh, this person just, you know, appeared on a pay-per-view and they're like having face-off like JBL Triple H at WrestleMania 21. That made sense. But how are you going to have a draft where you have a set number of people who are just free agents because you don't know where else to put them?
Exactly.
And then, you know, 2 weeks later, you're like, oh, I just saw them, you know, 2 days ago on Raw. Why are they on NXT? Why are they on SmackDown? Well, now we have these guys who are on the roster who we don't get used, like Karrion Kross.
Exactly.
Like,
and he going to do? I mean, you brought him from NXT and you're doing absolutely nothing with him. It's not going to help. What they should do, and I was thinking about this too, is be like Major League Baseball, be like the NBA, all the 4 major pro sports, and have a trade, have a trade deadline. You don't, this guy ain't cutting the mustard here. Why don't you trade him? Why don't you trade him to SmackDown? Hey, SmackDown, we'll propose this trade to you, and do it like you would sports. I mean, do it like you would Major League Baseball. Sorry about that. I had to back over here. One glitch for today. Sorry about that, everybody. But
one glitch tonight.
one glitch. All right, but I mean, do it like the trade. Like trade this guy here. Trade this guy here. Trade this guy there. We'll offer you this, and you offer you this, and then add it to the storyline or something like that. I mean, make it legit, because you got guys in here that are underutilized and would do well, in other spots. There are guys that would thrive in SmackDown and they're on Raw. And then you got, and vice versa. And then you got these guys in NXT, waiting to get called up, What are you going to do with these guys? You got these free agent guys out here. What are you going to do with them?
And especially in the sports sense, you're not, the Charlotte Hornets, and you're like, man, we really need to put some butts in seats. How about we go call Zion for a game? How about we go grab Damian Lillard for a game? And just as a one-off, let's pair Damian Lillard and Brandon Miller together. That'll put butts in seats. No, you don't. Because guess what? You don't have the rights to Damian Lillard. No. Just like Monday Night Raw doesn't have the rights to the Bloodline. Just like SmackDown doesn't have the rights to the Judgment Day. Why are they? It was right after the draft too. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't look like it's fixed either.
No, it does not at all, man. It's just one of those things where you just look at it, you say, well, why don't you just go ahead and just put them all together? I mean, just put them together, have your 6 titles and all that other stuff. Then later on, there's somebody going to be coming, well, what about this title? This title's not this title's not that. So it's all in a cluster. And so you're wondering, what are you going to do with these guys? I mean, if the brand split was supposed to be what it was, hey, offer these trades up. Okay, the trade deadline is this day. You got till this day, you trade you guys, and after that, that's it.
Ooh, I just thought of an idea. You put the trade deadline right before the Royal Rumble.
See? It would work. I mean, for real, it would really work. I mean, I think that would work, because, you got guys in here that would thrive real well. For example, and I'll throw it out there, I really think that what's going on with SmackDown right now, you don't want to mess with the Bloodline. You don't want to mess with that. You don't want to mess with it at all. But you've got Bobby Lashley over on SmackDown. You've got
doing nothing.
Doing nothing. You've got AJ Styles over there.
Doing nothing.
Why don't you trade some of those guys, for Shinsuke Nakamura, for a Ricochet that would go well with the U.S. title, for Austin Theory, give something for Austin Theory to do, put either Bobby Lashley in for that Intercontinental Championship, because they need somebody to go against Gunther, put him in the mix with Drew McIntyre, or even better, put him in the mix with Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. You got AJ Styles, who would have a wonderful match with Seth Rollins. He would be great doing that. I mean, you got these guys here. And then Raw, you want a guy that's going to continue with Roman Reigns? Why don't you put Braun Strowman over there? Why don't you put Braun Strowman over there and see if he can't mess around with the Bloodline a little bit?
That'd be interesting, especially seeing that story come full circle. Reigns coming back and wrecking Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt and then leaving. There's rumors Bray Wyatt might be returning, maybe, hopefully. I don't know.
As the Fiend.
Really, hopefully. And there's one thing, we're talking about AEW. Should they split Dynamite and Collision 2 rosters? I can say this about AEW. Everything we're complaining about for the last 5 minutes about how WWE did the brand split wrong, Tony Khan would figure out a way to listen to fans and do it right.
Absolutely.
That's the good thing about AEW. It feels like they're more in tune with the fans. Don't get me wrong. WWE's been doing great. They've been on a hot streak, especially with the Bloodline stuff. But when
Yes.
it comes to little things that we like care about as wrestling fans,
Hmm.
Tony Khan would be taking care of us with the brand split.
Absolutely. I mean, so that's the thing. You've got these big guys out, and you have these big guys out here in no man's land. Well, like you messed around with the dartboard. You have the dartboard going, like Esteban said that there. Got the dartboard. All right, we'll put these guys together. Okay, we'll put them in a match. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense whatsoever. Tony Khan is actually like, okay, looking at the episode, looking at everything, like, well, they liked it when he came out. They liked it when he came out. They didn't like when he came out. They didn't like what they did in the ring. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do, they like this, so let's do this. They hated this, so let's can that. This is entertainment here right now. You're in the entertainment business, ladies and gentlemen. You are. You got to be entertaining. Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Russell
Are you
Crowe.
not entertained is right. Something happened to my cam, but I had to make sure that the fans are entertained.
The dartboard.
You see this dartboard? You better aim for the bullseye right there.
That dartboard look older than me.
It probably is. Who knows? Yeah. Hey guys, hit the dartboard. But don't do it while my face is like behind there. It wouldn't be cool. But I figured that's a great way to end the Drop the Mic Wrestling podcast as part of your Wrestling Wednesday card on Tobacco Road Sports Radio and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. Be sure to subscribe to the Drop the Mic's home on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel. You'll catch a lot of episodes by myself, by Shannon. Might even try to get you on Out of Pocket with Michael Davis this week.
Man, after last week's episode, man, I would really hope so.
We'll talk. We'll talk. Yes. Everybody, thank you so much for stopping by on Drop the Mic. Thanks, Shannon, for hopping on with me. Tune to Out Pocket with Michael Davis at 4 live this Friday on Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe. And wherever you do, don't drop the mic or the dartboard. We will see you all next week.
One glitch Smith.
New nickname right there.
Yeah, one glitch. Yes. Oh man. See, it worked. Okay, good. It worked.